popcorn. We are two niggas spoiling movies. Yeah. Brandon Collins, that's me, and Justin Brown for your movie needs. Medium popcorn. Woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Spoil it in your face. That's your warning. So if you get pissed, it's all your fault.
What's up, Little Biscuits and Sun-Dried Tomatoes? It's your boy, Eddie Collins.
Guys, this is Justin Brown.
And we are Medium Popcorn spoiling movies. But you already knew that because you pushed that play button and you got to hearing our velvety voices just singing along, singing together. Unity.
I can't speak.
In the year of our Lord 2024, that's what you need. You need community and easy love.
Yeah.
Should have called out the legal
you also
name
just
of the
need
song.
an easy lover every now and again.
You
An
do.
easy lover.
Yep.
That'll
You
help your whole soul.
Yeah, because, a lot of people need some help for their souls, especially Mrs. Voorhees, because she's out here just spending her free time killing horny teenagers. Like, that's going to help. Like, that's going to bring back her poor little Jason.
Yeah, they drowned in the goddamn fucking lake. Because two people are too busy getting their rocks off.
I can't believe we've never actually reviewed the first Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy.
That's so insane, man. Because,
Kevin Bacon.
Young Kevin Bacon, he's the only one that made it out of this cast. Everyone else kind of fell off.
Oh, I for a second, I thought you meant he was the only one that made it out of this movie. I was like,
oh, no.
He ain't make it.
You're like, Brandon, did you watch the same movie? Like, yeah. The arrow in the throat, he was done. He was done real quick.
Nuts and bolts.
Yeah, that's the
At least
thing.
you got
too,
a little something before it happened, though.
Yeah, but it wasn't even that great. Like, none of the actresses in this, were doing it for me. Not that, that's the purpose of a slasher film, but you want to be able to see some eye candy. The ladies got to see Kevin Bacon with that feathered hair. You know what I mean? Come on now. We got to get something. Mrs. Voorhees with her turtleneck wasn't doing it for me.
Guys,
apparently this old lady's driving around town in a fucking Jeep, and no one's like, hey, why is Mary Poppins driving around in a Jeep in the middle of the fucking woods? What's she doing out here?
Well, you know what? There's nothing more, I guess necessarily for white women, there's nothing more disarming than a white woman just driving around and offering you a ride. That's just what it comes down to.
This is true. I mean, it's kind of crazy, though, because, she does. So they're positing in this movie that she picked up that one white girl, didn't say a word to her. She's just looking like this wholesome white mom, and then just started driving crazy to the point where this girl just jumps out the car.
Yeah.
That's so insane. And this girl never thought to be like, hey, just to let y'all know, there's this crazy old lady that just fucking was acting cuckoo bananas. I had to jump out the car.
Well, I mean,
she got killed.
Didn't make it.
Yeah, she got killed right after.
Yeah,
this is one of the few films where I'm like, all the white women look the same.
Yes.
It was very hard to discern who was who.
Except the one with that little bob cut. You knew who the hell she was.
Yeah, but it's a lot different than Black Christmas, right? Because all those girls had specific outfits where you're like, okay, I don't remember her name, but I know that she's the horny one or she's the dirty one. You know what I mean? Even in this one, they all look the same. Even when girls were down to their underwear and stuff, I'm like, I don't know which one you're supposed to be. I don't remember if you make it or not, so I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. This is 1980s. Like I said, this is the original Friday the 13th. But I guess also in the 1980s, it just wasn't a big thing on creating a character in a horror film. Or I guess this is kind of like one of the first slashers.
Yeah, I mean, because Halloween came out in '78, so yeah, this is the beginning of the slasher craze.
Yeah,
of course we got fucking so many of these Jason sequels and everything like that. Jason Goes to Hell and Freddy versus Jason, all that bullshit. Yeah. But this is the start of it, and it has a great twist. It does have a great twist where you don't think it's this little old lady, but then you should probably figure it out before she reveals herself because she's acting real crazy already. The way she smiles is so unsettling.
Well, I mean, the fact is you don't really see her until the third act of the film.
Yeah.
Because I mean, my memory.
The killer's an unseen person throughout the killer's an unseen force throughout a lot of the movie.
And they're doing it more in most of this film is in POV. So you can't even see it's like man, woman, whatnot. Even though when that girl, jumped out of the car and then she goes chasing her, those feet were definitely men's feet. Yeah?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, it's almost like they were just like, yeah, so Mrs. Voorhees was here. But remember we had that stunt guy, we had Robert running after that chick in the woods. It was like, ain't nobody gonna remember that shit. I do. I do, Brandon.
Yep. Now this camp, Crystal Lake, has a notorious like reputation, right? Because that one dude at the diner, he's like, "Oh, you going up to Camp Blood, ain't you?"
Yeah.
And which is basically like the story of the the boy drowning in 1957, a few years before this movie takes place. And then it's like there's 2 murders by the camp counselors, and they were just like, "Oh, they consider the camp cursed," but like the camp is reopening relatively soon after that whole incident, so. It's weird that it like already has this like this myth, Camp Blood and shit, but it's like that didn't last long. Kids are coming back apparently.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, man. You got property, you gonna make some money off of it because after I guess Jason died, a year later 2 camp counselors were killed, and then the property was sold.
Yeah.
You guys buys the property. He's just like, well. Time for me to make some, make some ducats, and one thing leads to another. Here we go.
Like fucking Scrooge McDuck. I mean the old counselor who was shirtless with the mustache and stuff. I'm like, how old is he supposed to be? The one that was like hitting on the main chick.
I mean, honestly, though, Brandon, that motherfucker could literally been 32 years old
or 18 because it's 1980 when they filmed this. It was so confusing. Like I was like. These are like grown adults.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I know they're supposed to be teenagers. It was just weird because I wrote that on my notes. I'm like, I get it's 1950 something, but I just can't imagine my mom letting me drive myself to a summer camp where I'm going to work the whole fucking summer. And there's just no contact because they didn't really have phones.
Yeah.
Right. There was, you know what I mean? It's just like you're just praying that your kid's safe for like 3 months while they do this thing. Granted, these kids had no adult supervision. They're walking around with machetes and shit. They're shooting arrows. Like, I'm like, what is this? Is like Camp Nowhere. Like, what the fuck is happening?
Now, mind you, there are no kids there. So, like,
right, this is before the kids even arrived.
Yeah, this is before anybody even shows up. So this is just the counselors, getting everything ready, and chitty chitty bang bang, baby.
You know what's wild about that is this actually. I think I fucked up. I think we fucked up by reviewing this after we've done so many crazy ass slash movies, and particularly after we've done Sleepaway Camp, because I think Sleepaway Camp is the cuckoo fucking bananas version of Friday the 13th, because this actually plays it very straight compared to Sleepaway Camp.
Oh, for sure.
Because this is basically the counselors getting ready for Sleepaway Camp.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so it's just, it just was kind of boring because it's just straightforward slasher film. Kids get killed. The deaths aren't even as creative as they were the first time or even second time I watched it.
Yeah.
And also I recently watched Friday the 13th Part 2, which I had never seen before. Like I watched it this past Halloween. It's actually really fucking fun. Like there's this one dude in a wheelchair that gets got, but it's like so fucking outrageous and over the top how he gets killed and kind of funny.
So I guess the whole thing is like, especially after watching this, the first one, it's kind of like, okay, you get why, like how everything happened here. You had somebody was killed in, a young boy drowns in 1957. 2 kids get, murdered in 1958. I'm not sure, when is this one supposed to take place?
This takes place, according to Wikipedia, in 1958. Wait, no, it's because that's the opening.
Yeah.
That's the opening. Okay, so because that was also confusing too. So the opening is the counselors getting killed, but are they working they're not working at the new camp?
No. So like, Blood Camp. So it seems like it's been shut down for a bit. I mean, I'm looking at the Wikipedia right now, and it doesn't even say. So it seems like it's been shut down for a bit, and now it's at the point where they sold to somebody else and now reopening it. But that's why it was run down, and probably that's why they had all the counselors come in early to help kind of fix up the place.
Okay,
slap a new
that could
fresh
have been a little
paint
bit
coat on
clearer.
it.
That definitely could have been clearer because I was at first I thought the code opened with the two counselors get killed. I didn't connect that that's supposed to be the counselors that were fucking when Jason drowned.
Yeah.
For some reason, I didn't connect that. So okay, but yeah, it had to be way before the reopening because otherwise they would have found some remnants of the bodies, or at least been like, "Yo, I'm missing two counselors." Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Unless that's why what's her name is being called there. That's why Alice is being called. Because remember the guy's like, "Oh, stick like I'll get it up and running. Just like stick it out with me a few more days or something like that."
Yeah. It's really, that's the one thing that's that's very unclear. But so now so that all that happens, right? And then basically everything in this film happens, right? So everything in this film happens. Why is this same campground open after this film? No parent should ever send their child here.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's why the sequel I think takes place a few years later, and because it's Mrs. Voorhees, no one knows that Jason's back.
Yeah.
I mean, because we also had the fake out endings in this movie as well, which, I actually wrote down, I was like, oh, that fake out ending probably fucked people up in the theater.
Yeah.
Because you're not expecting that. I mean, because this came out after Freddy, right? Nightmare on Elm Street came out. Oh, no, this came out before.
Yeah.
So that means that extra tag at the end when, like, she's asleep in the canoe and the police are, like, trying to, get her attention and Jason jumps out, that probably freaked people the fuck out.
Yeah, because Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 1984, so.
Yeah, because remember, like, Freddy pops up at the end of that one. So that's probably, there was a lot of potential with this franchise. It just got really crazy. And to be fair, the director did say that he was influenced by Halloween and Meatballs. So that kind of makes sense as to why the Jason movies were always kind of grosser.
Yeah.
And a little bit more comedic in a way than a lot of the other.
Wait, comedic? You thought these were comedic?
Well, I think if you have a dark, let's say, because you never watched Barry, right?
Yeah, I watched Barry.
Okay, think about like a Bill Hader was around the 70s doing cocaine and did a slasher film. I feel like this is the kind of like franchise you might get because it's so absurd at times, especially when Jason starts rotting and he's got the exposed brains and he's going to hell and coming back and. We reviewed Jason Takes Manhattan for Patreon, like in that live show and stuff. Like, see, it gets so crazy.
So, like, yeah, this does get crazy, and they get into supernatural, and they do supernatural terribly. But at the same time, I wouldn't consider anything about the Jason franchise necessarily comedy. I look at, Freddy, the Freddy movies. Yeah, those are, borderline very fucking ridiculous.
Well, remember a lot of horror, like in Lluvia, our producer in the chat saying it is classified as horror comedy. Remember a lot of horror does veer off into the comedic, especially as the sequels get on, because essentially they start parodying themselves.
True.
So, the Friday the 13th was just always like extra gross for me for some reason, because I think they had to be like, we got to get creative because all this nigga has is a machete. And he's just like extra big for no fucking reason.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess it comes down to it's like, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, things like that. It's just like, all right, so how do we switch up how we're killing people?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Let's rip some balls off, which they do in the Friday the 13th series.
Which one do they do that in?
Oh, I'm pretty sure there's one where they shoot a harpoon and it goes through a kid's dick.
No, that's Carrie too.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, because that stuck with me forever. And it's the kid from Home Alone, not Home Alone, Home Improvement.
Yeah, Brad.
Yeah. So I was never the same after I saw that scene in like 1997, whenever that movie came out.
Yeah,
but I was just wait, Jason versus all balls. Granted, I've only seen like maybe 4 of these movies, and I think 2 of them include. Well, no, I've seen 5. I've seen this one, Friday the 13th, Part 2, Jason Takes Manhattan. And then Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah.
The remake doesn't... Was the remake count? So 6?
No, I mean, yeah. Why wouldn't it?
Yeah, the remake... Oh, and I also saw Jason 7, Jason in Space. That was fucking crazy.
Oh, no. The Jason in Space was nuts.
Yeah.
Fucking nuts.
Especially when you look at this one. I mean, this movie's kind of straightforward. It's not a... I mean, it's a slasher film, but it's a tight 90 minutes. They filmed it on, for $500,000, which you can kind of tell, but they didn't really need more than that.
Wait, wasn't there Jason X? Isn't that the one?
That's the space one.
Yeah, that's the space one. Yeah, that one was fucking nuts.
Yeah.
That was beyond nuts. And then right after that, like a year later, comes Jason versus Freddy.
Yeah, it's a dark time for the horror genre. No pun intended. Yeah, this movie was just kind of wild because all these counselors are just like left to their own devices to set up this camp. There's no real adult supervision. And like I said, they're walking around with like weapons. They're just fucking all the time. And then niggas are just getting their necks slit and being impaled. And it's such a small group. You would notice, like, you've only been there for like 2 days. You should notice if like 1 or 2 people just out of nowhere goes missing.
They just figured they out there fucking.
That was so insane. Like, I was like, no one's checking it. There's no buddy system. This is going to be terrible counselors for the kids.
I mean, they're the counselors. They're just like, oh, they can take care of themselves.
And you know what? In actual reality, Mrs. Voorhees, she did the right thing. Because there was going to be a lot more dead kids. If these kids were going to be, these teens were going to be responsible for them, she did the right thing, actually.
I see where you're going with this, Brandon. I can't say that I agree. I can't say that I agree.
I mean, she was fucking people up, though. She's stabbing niggas up with, like, arrows. She's impaling them. She's fucking... Yeah, man. She was doing some wild stuff as an old lady.
So, also the question is, how did she get and sneak herself into some of these places
I was
to do
wondering
some
that
of these
too.
kills?
Like Kevin Bacon, she had to be under the bed when they were fucking.
Yeah.
Which that makes it crazy. Then she had to know precisely where his neck was going to be. I mean, I guess she was just like, I'm just going to drill through him and like, they'll probably kill him no matter where I drill through. But yeah, there were some death scenes where I'm like, how'd she lift up that body?
Yes.
Or like, how'd she get this body configured in this way? You know what I mean? It's just also, it's not like human beings don't smell after they die. I've never been around a dead body. Well, I have, but like it's in the hospital and, unfortunately hospitals most of the time smell like dead bodies. But I've never been like around one that's like been mutilated, like, like slaughtered, like in slasher films, right? I imagine though, there's some funkness that's in the air.
Well, I mean, it's also just that the smell of iron in the blood. I think like that's the thing that like you'd have to, like, all right, how do we not get this? You know what I'm saying? Like somebody doesn't come across and is like, why does this smell?
Well, here's the thing. Is it true that human beings shit themselves when they die? Or emit some kind of gas, right?
Well, in not in all cases, but like, people like their bowels release because your muscles are no longer tense. It just lets go.
So if that's the case, right? All right, folks, listeners, watchers, Exhibit A, right? That typically happens when someone dies, just like in general, right? Imagine you're in a horror situation where a nigga with a machete, especially an old, innocent-looking white lady, is chasing after you. Your butt cheeks are already clenched. You probably already want to shit yourself out of terror. Then you die. That shit is going to release. Like, you are going to smell. That's what I'm trying to say. I rest my case.
Well, I mean, like, especially when Kevin Bacon and that chick are fucking in that room, and apparently the body was right over top of them. On the bunk.
The guy with the slit neck. Yeah, Mrs. Voorhees loved the slit neck.
Well, I mean, it's not like it's not like her name is like fucking Helga and she's like this big ass chick, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So like she has to take the kills in whatever way that she can get them. And I think like the neck is actually a pretty good one to go to.
Yeah, I mean it's a very strong fatality rate right there. And her first name is Pam, by the way, Pamela Voorhees. So
her name is Mrs. Voorhees. Ain't nobody knows calling her fucking Pam. Pam is the chick from Martin.
They called her Pamela Voorhees for the prequel that tries to humanize her. Be like, she didn't mean to kill all those kids. They just happened to fall on her knife.
Yeah, right. Niggas die every day, B.
Because technically she's trespassing, right? So there's no like justified reason why she's on these campgrounds.
True.
Even if she was patrolling to make sure the kids did their job, Like, no, like legally you're not supposed to be here, lady.
Yeah, I mean, you sold the property. Wait, no. She worked
She didn't
there.
know. She worked there. She worked at a nursery, she said, or something.
Yeah, and her son
Which
was
is probably how she knew how, like, the quick ways to take these kids out. She's like, arteries. Only arteries. There's no gunshots. Bro, she was like, I know how to execute. I'm not gonna use guns.
I mean,
I'm using hand-to-hand combat, baby.
She was also a fucking expert archer. This bitch is a Hawkeye. She's Black Widow. She's everything.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is like, I was just watching John Wick the other day. You never know what someone's capable of and what their history is. Because when that Russian kid was fucking with John Wick and like, later went to his house and beat him up and stuff, Keanu Reeves just looks like a homeless man at the beginning of John Wick, right? And he's just like, yeah, maybe this guy is like, in the tech or something like that. That's why he has money, whatever. But you would never guess. Like the scene when the kid is told by his dad who John Wick is one of the funniest moments ever. Because he's like, he's the fucking guy that they take to kill the boogeyman. He's not the boogeyman.
He's a person that the boogeyman's afraid of. He's just like, oh.
And his son's like, well, he's just a fucking dog. And just like, yeah, man. You never know. So I feel like Mrs. Voorhees, we don't have a full backstory. It might be somewhere like a Wikipedia page or some fan fiction or some shit. But she probably has been through some shit, which is why she snapped when her deformed kid was drowned.
Again, we don't know what year this is, but let's say that maybe she was in the Korean War, man. She was a nurse in the Korean War.
Well, it has to take place in the 50s, at the very least, the early 60s.
No, I would say this has to take place in like the 60s or 70s.
Oh, so you think there's that big of a jump from the opening scene?
I think so.
Interesting.
Because like she's also very pissed off that they're gonna reopen this place because her son died there. You know what I'm saying? So I would say it's either somewhere in the 60s or maybe the 70s. Because also you got to let the place run down a bit. And that's why they're fixing it back up.
I mean, were they fixing it up? It seemed like they didn't know which way was up in regards to anything. I didn't see them doing
a little work while they were fucking. In between.
Yeah, like, again, Mrs. Voorhees, she saved the company a lot of money. She was like, hey, I tried out your product. It's not great. Start over. What if they had just let Mrs. Voorhees do the interviews for the staff? What if they had just incorporated her as part of the hiring process?
I mean, it would have just been easier for her to kill her. I think no matter what,
she just wanted to kill some horny teenagers.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing.
She was just like, oh, somebody's gonna feel the blunt end. Well, not the blunt end, the sharp end of this knife.
Well, that's the thing with that machete that they were carrying around before Mrs. Voorhees got her hands on it. It looked rusty as fuck. Like, I was like, this ain't cutting through nothing.
No, well, listen, you can cut niggas with a rusty machete. They're just gonna get tetanus after on that cut too. So it's actually a double kill because, like, if the cut don't get them, the tetanus will.
I was randomly in Manhattan, like near Chinatown, and I saw a group of dudes with machetes, but they were like, yeah.
What?
Yeah, and they were black dudes. And I was like, I don't know about
so
this.
They were Jamaican. You saw a bunch of Jamaican dudes.
I didn't want to say that.
Wait, hold on. Were so did you just see these dudes just walking around with machetes in there?
Yes. And I want the opposite direction.
Wait, so they're just walking on the street. Wait,
there's like three dudes who just like by a bodega walking with machete.
Oh yeah, somebody got fucked up that day.
That's why I was just like, I know what that means. That just go the opposite direction, Brandon.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now. I know, the world is kind of encapsulated with this whole United healthcare CEO getting killed. 3 niggas with machetes walking around Manhattan. I think that's a bigger deal.
Oh yeah. There's a few things I've seen in New York City where I'm like, my black instincts tell me get the fuck away from this. Like, I don't want to be anywhere near this.
While they were walking around with those machetes, did anyone say they killed Wayne, man? They killed Wayne.
I didn't stick around long enough to hear any kind of dialogue.
Okay. Because
it's one of those visuals
I would
where
cross the street and I would stand in a cut. I just want to see what's going to happen.
Just to give you an idea of how quickly I turned around to go the opposite direction when I saw these three gentlemen with these machetes. It was like when Grandpa Simpson goes into the brothel or the gentleman's club and he sees Bart working the door and he immediately walks out the door. That's how quickly I just turned the fuck around. Because that's not something you want to see. I think it was like a Tuesday afternoon. I'm like, no, like I'm not. Why would I actively go towards the danger?
So I was in Detroit. Story time with Uncle Justin.
Yeah.
I was in Detroit.
No story ever ends well with I was in Detroit.
So I was in Detroit. This was like 2012, right? So Detroit wasn't a good place. And I'm in downtown Detroit at this point. So I'm in downtown Detroit and like I'm on tour and we're doing this whole thing and I'm filming something. The rest of the cast and crew were kind of like across the street. It was me with a cameraman, right? And I'm filming this thing and I'm talking to the camera. And then all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see a nigga walking down the street talking to himself with a bat in his hand. And this nigga, he was wearing a wife beater. He was wearing sweatpants. He had no shoes on. So I knew.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't think people understand. Like, if you hear that description and you're like, that's not like crazy. It is crazy.
Yeah. No. When somebody is talking to themselves and they're wearing a wife beater, they're wearing sweatpants and no shoes on, and they're walking down the street, kind of like like his name is Muggsy, talking and like hitting the fucking bat in his other hand, like he's ready to club somebody with this shit. Yo, that shit. I mean, at that point, there's nothing I could do. So all I did was I stepped right out of that nigga's way. I was just like, go ahead, brother, do what you got to do.
That's all you could do.
But you should have saw. Now, I was the only black person on this cast because this is how it goes. You should saw everybody else standing across the street. It seemed like when I looked across the street, these motherfuckers were in the garbage cans hiding. So I'm looking, it's like, y'all motherfuckers, we ain't gonna warn the motherfucker.
Yep.
Y'all just ready to see Justin get fucking smashed with a goddamn fucking baseball bat.
Well, I think like in that situation, I think you did the right thing, which is just get out of the way, but also like kind of acknowledge the person because Tati and I were in the LA transit system, and like there was this brother that looked like the guy Travie McCoy from Gym Class Heroes, but he was dressed like a homeless court jester, and he had a hockey stick, and he's just walking back and forth in the trains. But he saw Tati and I, he was like, "Y'all good looking couple." And just kept walking back and forth. And so every time he would say it to us, we were just like, thank you. Like, we weren't like antagonizing them. Other people were like acting like they were going to try it. You know what I mean? Sometimes people get a little bit too fidgety or nervous. And
you can't show fear.
Exactly. I'm like, that's going to set that nigga off. Like, you need to calm the fuck down. It's like we're dealing with a velociraptor here. Everyone just calm the fuck down.
Nigga. You're there with a pit bull. There's a pit bull in your vicinity. And when he looks at you and snarls his teeth, you're just like, them some good teeth, bro.
Do you think if Alice had the opportunity that she could have, I mean, she did try to kind of like talk Mrs. Voorhees down. Do you think Mrs. Voorhees would ever stop with the bloodlust, or do you think she was just going to keep killing teens that were showing up to camp?
No. Teens were going to die that day.
But what did she do before the camp reopened? Like, what did she do between the time that she killed these two counselors that were, she found responsible for her son's death and the resurgence of Camp Crystal Lake? Like, what was her life like?
I think she just had, she found closure in killing those teens, in 58. But then after they started to reopen it, then she was just like, oh, these motherfuckers got me fucked up. So they're going to do it again? So I think she was triggered, and then she went off for John Rocker.
Got it. I mean, that makes sense because, I mean, we do have the scenes where she's like, mommy, kill, mommy, kill. And I was just like, oh, boy.
Yeah, that was a very Red Rum moment.
A very what?
Red Rum.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Red One. I was like, Red what? The Rock movie?
Yeah, man. It was a Christmas miracle.
I I wish that this movie was a little bit more fast paced. I feel like it dragged at times.
Yep.
Like to setting up the sense of dread and tension and stuff. But like, I guess because I know the beats of this movie, and also just seeing more films tackle this in a way more radical way, that's completely insane. But like I keep going back to Sleepaway Camp, right?
Yeah.
Because they did the first person POV perspective of the killer, and like, but the kills and the murder scenes were just so insane and over the top that it makes this look, pale in comparison. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it is also a sign of the times, especially with this film, because there's this is like an early horror film, and it's just it's 1980. They're not really going really nuts just yet. Because like even Freddy in 84, it wasn't as gory as Freddy got in the future. So it's like they came in, they're kind of like, all right, like some people are gonna die, but it's not anything like super fucking nutso where people are just gonna lose their minds over this. I mean, also this is a fucking independent film. This was made on a budget of $550,000, but this made $59.8 million.
Yeah.
So it's like they didn't have necessarily the budget to really go crazy.
They did it. I mean, this movie was an unexpected hit, and it just, obviously it sparked a franchise, and a lot of people unexpectedly made a lot of money off this movie, which is interesting because it doesn't feel like it should have been a movie that had like a lot of, I don't want to say renaissance, but like a lot of people like, responded well to. But I guess, just the idea of like, because at the end of the day, Mrs. Voorhees is a regular person that gets killed at the end. She gets beheaded by Alice, right? Yeah. So it's like a slasher film, but with less big ambiguity like Halloween does.
Yeah.
So this is before Jason comes back and he like never can die.
Yeah.
Like they like chop that nigga up into pieces and he still survives somehow and shit. So I think that's also what's interesting about this movie is it's kind of filmed like a one and done thing.
Yeah. But I mean, so I guess upon watching concluding this film, I was just like, okay, so then how does Jason become the demon that he is? You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, yes, he comes to life and all this. He comes back.
I think that's the whole going to hell thing. I've never seen many of the sequels. Like I said, like, have you seen, which ones have you seen? The Friday the 13th.
I've seen a bunch of these. Like I've seen a bunch. I've seen a bunch of these. But I also saw a lot of them when I was a kid. Which is definitely not a good idea. But
no, but it explains a lot.
So like with that being said, it's just like I just don't remember how Jason became like this unstoppable force that you can't kill him and things like that.
Yeah, that might have been inspired by like, Michael Myers and all that stuff. But at the same time, the Michael Myers stuff kind of went on pause until the late 80s, early 90s and stuff. So who the fuck knows? It's just, it's a weird, Jason Voorhees becomes like a really weird thing. I'm sure next year we'll record, the Friday 13th part 2, since we're just now circling back to the beginning of the series. Like we got our whole, folks, we understand our whole release schedule and approach needs some work because we're doing Freddy versus Jason, then fucking Jason Takes Manhattan for a special show. We haven't even done the original. So it's like cuckoo bananas the way we've been approaching this stuff. Yeah, UVS asking, why did we add this for now? Because Friday the 13th is right around the corner. That's why people get this bonus episode.
Mm-hmm.
And folks, for, as thanks for this bonus episode, we'd really appreciate it if y'all went over to patreon.com/media popcorn.
Yes, sir.
Get hours and hours of bonus content,
Days
video
content.
and audio, all that stuff. You get to chat with Justin and I and, the chats and the Discord, all that good stuff. And you get to get early access, commercial free to, upcoming episodes, stuff like that. So patreon.com/media popcorn.
Babe.
Oh, yeah. the twist to have Mrs. Voorhees as the killer, though, is because a lot of people like think that it might be Jason. They're like, oh, we heard about this kid that drowned or whatever. What if it's him back from whatever? I like that twist, and a lot of people forget about it because that's what makes that iconic opening of Scream so great, right? Because she thinks, he's like, who's the killer in Friday the 13th? She's like, Jason. He's like, no, it's actually Mrs. Voorhees. It's the mom.
Yeah.
Which sets up the sequel, Scream 2 for who the reveal of the mom is there. But apparently this is thought of as a reverse Psycho, where the mom is actually the killer and the son isn't.
Okay.
Yeah, which is pretty creative.
Yeah.
I can see the script being pretty popular and people wanting to bid. Apparently there was a bidding after a screening between a few studios. I'm trying to find. We're in between United Artists, Warner Brothers, and Paramount after the early screenings of this film. So that means they saw the teenagers probably were really fucking with it.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah,
that's where the money is.
Like, especially 1980. This is also like the height of like serial killers in the United States, and then you're adding like just attractive teens and everything. Like, yeah, this was definitely a huge hit because I think horror films, obviously depending on when they come out, is really a sign of the times. I think that this one just hit at the perfect time. That just took off.
According to UVS trivia, Betsy Palmer, who played Mrs. Voorhees, gave her character a detailed backstory, imagining that Mrs. Voorhees hated sexual transgression because she had Jason out of wedlock, causing her parents to disown her. Yeah, that's a little Carrie-esque.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That because Stephen King's the king of horror, so that makes sense that there'd be a lot of Stephen King like influences, at least with like approaches to the characters. And I'm sure in the script she's like asking, she's looking at it like, how am I supposed to interpret this fucking crazy ass character? And the director's like, hey, yeah, don't worry about that, Betsy. Just stab people, be angry.
I'll show you how.
It's always funny when people are like, what's my motivation? Like, what's the character arc? And it's like, just read what's on page. It's like, well, there's nothing really there. Like, they can't kill Stephen King, or you can't kill Stephen King, right? How many conversations did you actually have about your character with the director and like the writer?
Well, I mean, there really wasn't much to really go over because my character was just a coon. I mean, like, I saw through it pretty quickly. It was just like, oh,
what's he written as a coon, basically?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like he's like, I'm only here to see these white girls in fucking bikinis. So he was just there to try to poke on something. So at that point, it was very apparent.
They were like, we know the perfect guy to play this character.
Yep. It's like we searched far and wide and we found the nigga for it.
Okay, so there wasn't really, there wasn't much needed in regards to having conversations about like what's your character motivation and like how they should respond to being murdered or, being in this town and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also the fact is like, like for that film, like my character didn't take much seriously. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, of course, the guy who doesn't take shit seriously, who's sitting there joking about stuff like that, and he's black, he's definitely going to get it first.
Oh yeah,
because also the audience is going to be like that guy's entertaining. So you start off with the guy that people like and you take him out first because, then you're just like, oh shit, we're in a movie. Like they killed they killed the guy that we liked.
Yeah. I mean, the reason why I brought that up too is also because in the research, it showed that a lot of the actors, including Kevin Bacon, had been trained in theater and stuff. And they didn't actually know that they were auditioning for a horror film when they initially read for the parts in this movie. So I imagine a lot of people on set were probably, they probably had a lot of fun because they're young and up and coming actors and stuff like that. But I'm sure there was like conversations at night, at the hotel or wherever where they were like, guys, what the fuck are we making? What is this?
So I guess the question is like, what kind of compensation did these actors get from this film?
I bet you that they got like, scale, whatever that was at the time for SAG. And that's probably it. is probably really, really low. Because
But
like
I wonder if
no one,
anybody got anything off the back end of this.
I doubt it, man. Because this is an independent film where there was a bidding war for studios to distribute it, and so I imagine probably the director creator, they got a lot of money, but the actors themselves, I mean, you know how that works. They're already all supposedly supposed to be on the next gig by the time this thing comes out. So I'm sure. Yeah, because Kevin Bacon doesn't really talk about it, and interviews I've heard him and stuff like that, or it's never come up as like a hey, the movie that keeps paying me checks,
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, you know what I mean? So I doubt.
Well, I
they
mean,
made it.
so the actress that played Mrs. Voorhees, what's her name? Something Palmer. She was paid. So she filmed for 10 days, and she was paid Betsy Palmer. Sorry. So she was paid $1,000 a day. So she made $10,000 off of this. I mean, I guess that's pretty good. But then again, at the same
Evie
time,
says she took the part to buy a new car at the time.
Yeah,
which good for her.
but even so, considering how much money that this film made, I mean, it's like Star Wars.
But no one could have known. It's like the Blair
Exactly.
Witch Project actors. They had no idea what the fuck that was going to become. And now, I read an article not too long ago about from the original directors of that film who were like, yeah, we got fucked out of everything. We made nothing.
Yeah, like I said, for Star Wars, James Earl Jones, $5,000.
Yeah, I mean, but he ended up turning that around, right? Like he was able to people were able to
renegotiate
make that
for a
right.
second film,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
but mostly everyone got shit pay other than fucking Harrison Ford.
Well, that's because you never know when something's going to hit, right? And you need to have a lot of power in order to get in. You need to have a lot of influence. I mean, to get in on the ground floor of something and be on the back end. You have to have some sway where you're like, maybe I take a hit on my fee up top, and I get more on the back end. If it's a production where it's we have a really tight budget, but we need your star power or influence to get this over the hump to actually get it made. A lot of these contracts are it's tricky business, balancing all what people need and what they want to feel fulfilled. That's why the things with the Netflix shit, it's getting really murky now. Because a lot of creatives are like, yeah, Netflix is cool, but we actually want theatrical release of our film. And Netflix doesn't want to do that at all.
Yeah.
I guarantee you after this next Ryan Johnson Knives Out movie, he's doing a deal somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because him and Daniel Craig, I think Daniel Craig told had him Netflix is like, you have a stupid fucking model. These Knives Out movies can make you so much money and you're just keeping them on Netflix.
But I mean, at the same time, everyone's going to Netflix to fucking watch him. So, he's going to get, well, I guess the thing is it's not necessarily all that stupid for him because he's making all the money.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not bad for me.
Well, I mean, he's getting a fee, right? But the potential, if you have a franchise, the Knives Out franchise is a moneymaker, because it had a limited release for Glass Onion and it did very, very well.
Yeah.
Right. So if you know that, it's like Scarlett Johansson with the Black Widow went to Disney Plus. She's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm making way less than I was expecting to, especially because remember, people were getting fucked in that deal because their agents didn't have the foresight to be like, let me also put it in the back end in case there was ever a contingency plan where we had to release strictly a VOD. No one had that in their clause probably. So a lot of people had to renegotiate that shit. It's just, it's wonky. And so that's why I feel like the actors on this set, Friday the 13th, were probably just happy to be in a film that got seen. But unfortunately for them, Kevin Bacon was the only one that really, took off
after this.
But that's through, luck and his own opportunities that he was able to capitalize on.
Yeah, because if you're looking through, it's just what I guess Harry Crosby, in this film, that's Bing Crosby's grandson. So that's how he got in. Is there's nobody else who's really still working, at this point, other than Kevin Bacon.
Well, Adrienne King is in the sequel, but she got killed off really quickly because she wanted to quit acting after being stalked by a fan from this film franchise.
Lovely.
So yeah, it's it's tough, right? Because that's the beginning, and you do not want a fucking stalker follow you from this franchise. That's for damn sure. You know what I mean? If I'm an actor, they don't if you're Keira Knightley, right? You want a stalker from kind of like vibing you with like Pride and Prejudice. You don't want a stalker from fucking like Pirates of the Caribbean who's like, thinks they're a real pirate. And she's like, oh, I love you, lady. You're going to be mine. You don't want that guy.
I'm gonna put you in chains and keep you in the boats. Like, what?
But at the same time, maybe you don't want a stalker that's quoting Shakespeare and shit to you.
Yeah, because you wouldn't be able to understand it.
Actually,
Sir, I don't know what you're saying.
Sir, stop talking in riddles.
What do you want?
And folks, I know that Pride and Prejudice was written by Jane Austen. I was trying to make a joke, but just clarify that for people. I didn't know. God. Oh, sweet Lord. So we did get some Patriot thoughts on Friday the 13th. And remember, folks, again, if you sign up at Patreon, at patreon.com/mediapopcorn, you're guaranteed to have your thoughts and reviews of the film we're talking about in that episode read. And so Courtney Akana wrote, love this franchise, warts and all. Jason Voorhees is my favorite slasher that has more bodies to his name than any other slasher, possibly even if you combine their numbers. Is that true? That might be true. Fun fact, there are exactly 12 films attached to this franchise. 10 Friday the 13th films, 1 reboot, and Freddy vs. Jason. Rumors of a 13th film made the rounds a few years back with the film introducing us to Jason's father, a man named Elias. It obviously didn't get made. I think it has something to do with the rights and their licensing. I know they're trying to do a Crystal Lake series. I think it was for Peacock or something like that. But I know the showrunner who did like the Hannibal show, I believe, Brian Fuller, he quit last year or something like that. So I think they're going back to the drawing board in that. So,
I mean, I guess it would be interesting if they made, a show, that was a horror show that, obviously episodic, where like, Jason kills somebody every week or, like there's a different group. I mean, that I think that's actually kind of interesting to have a guy like, you have this guy who's killing motherfuckers and is like, and he ain't stopping. And like the whole show is about like trying to figure out like who this guy is. I mean, I guess just taking a movie and expanding it. I mean, that's actually kind of interesting. Now, if you really think about it.
Maybe. Other Patriot thought we got from Jeffrey McKinney, who wrote, I was 15 when I saw this movie. Scared the shit out of me, but was hooked. Didn't even bother me that Jason's mom was the first killer. I will watch this anytime I can. All right. So those are our Patriot thoughts on Friday the 13th. Now, Justin, break down our rating system, baby, so we too can rate this movie.
Well, first of all, stop calling me baby. So, guys, you know how we do this. We rate movies, bags of popcorn, small, medium, large, and the
This
XL
is how
for
we
the
do
exceptional.
it.
If a film doesn't deserve any hot, buttery, delicious popcorn, we throw it into the stale popcorn pile. We pile piles and piles of stale popcorn atop of it. So, Brandon, we watched the 1980 classic slasher film, Friday the 13th,
Yes,
starring Kevin Bacon, Betsy Palmer, and pretty much that's the only names you're going to remember from this. What say you, sir?
Yeah, so this gets a medium. It's a solid slasher film. It's just, it's an unfortunate timing for me rewatching this because I've just seen so many radical outside the box slasher films since that it's not really engaging for me anymore. I've kind of become desensitized to the way it sets up, but it is a classic film. It's influenced so many of those films that, have later been entertaining for me. Like I just recently was thinking about Silent Night, Deadly Night, and we don't get that without Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
For good and bad. So, folks, it's on our Patreon, the Silent Night, Deadly Night review. It's one of the funniest episodes we've ever done, and that's one of the craziest movies we've ever reviewed.
Yes,
it is
nuts.
legit insane.
Nuts and bolts.
It really, man. I can't I'm trying to tell people how crazy that movie is, and they're like, sure, Brandon. Okay, you say every movie's crazy. I'm like, no, for real. Silent Night, Deadly Night.
It's like, oh no, there's some that stand out.
this is a wild movie, but yeah, I give it a medium. What's your rating, Justin?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a medium as well. I mean, like you said, it's a classic, and is one that I feel like if you like horror, you should watch because this is kind of the beginning of it all. But at the same time, it's shot pretty dark, and it's kind of incredibly slow and kind of monotonous at times. Yeah. But it's just like if you're gonna compare it to modern day horror films, yeah, it may not, do it for you. But if you look for what they were doing at the time, this was just something different. Again, this was a one of one.
Yeah, Lluvia, our producer in the chat, said the script was made in 2 weeks, which makes sense. It's a straightforward story, and like there's probably a decent amount of improvisation on set with the teens because you want to get the voices as authentic as possible. So that makes sense. But man, actually, horror scripts are pretty hard to write, man. I'm in my third draft of my horror script, and it's like you just got to make it tighter, and it's so hard because you also want to like have a sense of dread and suspense on the page. It's a lot tougher than it seems. Yeah, it's a lot. But
I can't even imagine you writing a horror because,
I'm such a scaredy cat.
Yeah.
We were talking about that the other day about seeing script. Like, I mean, we've seen a lot of horror films together.
Yes.
Or
yes.
just like it's not.
Oh God!
I'm so embarrassed to say, folks, I legit do that in the movie scene. It's not. It's not.
You should be embarrassed. When he did that shit in the movie theater, everybody stopped and turned around. He was like,
all right, Joe. Well, you can follow the show at Medium P Podcast on all social media platforms. You can follow me personally at Frodo_Blackens on Instagram and Threads, or Frodo Blackens on the Blue Sky thing. Stay tuned. I got a lot of cool news coming up about Drum Black history, so definitely keep up with that. And launching a new podcast. You'd be like Friday Night Lights. Be on the lookout for Friday Night Lights Rewind with the homie Chris Allen. And just how can people follow you if they feel so inclined, as well as support the show financially?
Well, guys, you can follow me at J Brown Dinner on all your social media platforms, but you can support this show on Patreon, patreon.com/mediumpopcorn. We have $2, $5, $10, and $15 packages. Our entire backlog is on Patreon. We have so many bonus episodes. We have, our, mini shows and things like that. Guys, Patreon is where it's at. So take yourself to patreon.com/mediumpopcorn.
Patreon's where it's at. You know that. Again, patreon.com/mediumpopcorn. We give you bonus episodes, baby. Friday 13th. Give us a little bonus something. You know what I mean?
Oh, needs a stage.
Yeah, give us your monies. Give us your monies. Or, if money is tight, you can leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast application. How about that? But also we have a new voicemail set up, Justin.
Yes, sir.
347. Yep, 347-464-8214. Once again, that's 347-464-8214. Leave us a voicemail. Let us know what you think of the show. Send any thoughts and prayers for Justin and I. And, share movie suggestions, things like that. We love to hear from you. Also, again, 347-464-8214. All right, Joe.
Call us. Pick up the phone.
We hold you. We love you. We call you on the phone, but you're not answering. And so we at home going, Mr. Telephone Man, there's something wrong with my line. When I call my baby's number, it did every time.
Then a little spear comes through my bed. It gets me in the neck, and now I'm dead.